Thank you for so many people who've been sending their slide decks in. It's been great to see them coming in, and I'm very excited. I'm really, really excited for this afternoon's closing ceremony event.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
Roughly how many ideas are we going to have presented, Roshni, if you know?
Yeah, I'm just collating them right now. So if you give me 2 minutes, I'll have a number for you.
Oh dear.
All right, so at the moment we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's a couple who are slightly commercial in confidence ideas, so they've sent videos in but won't be presenting live today. So it's very exciting. I've heard from one of our judges that he is running slightly late, just a couple of minutes. So we will, oh, I should turn my camera on, shouldn't I? Yes, that would help. So we will, oh my God, my camera's frozen in the most inconvenient position. I look like a fish.
Excuse me, Roshni?
Yes, Fish Rushdie is here.
Yeah, I have mine here to upload.
Yeah.
Just if you wouldn't mind reminding me where the best place to send it.
Sure thing.
Sorry, I know you've told us so many times, but I'm
don't
late,
apologize.
So.
No, it's okay. I will put my email address into the chat.
Okay, and just to email it to you.
Yep, that would be all you need to do.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
Yep.
So we have some of our organizing committee here, and I would love to hear what are you excited about the whole week, and also what are you particularly looking forward to this afternoon? We might start with you, Emma.
Hey, Roshni. I just want to say a very warm Bula Vinaka to you now that I know that Fijian heritage is the nice way of saying thank you very much for everything you've done this week. You've done an absolutely fantastic job, and I know that it can be a challenge not just being in virtual events for a full week and many hours at a stretch, but actually leading those events through a whole week, that you must be exhausted. And we thank you for your continued enthusiasm and positivity and inspiration. And that's certainly been one of the greatest things of this week, just watching you soar, Roshni, and helping everyone turn their good ideas and putting it down onto paper, and you being there with them every step along the way. So in terms of highlights for the week, well, look, there's been so many, but what has been really heartening, I think I've said this before, is hearing some of the ideas of things that people from the region would like to do, and being able to say, yes, we know of something similar that's been done already, I think we can help you. So that's been very inspiring. I also loved the cross-cultural training through Asialink, because although, you know, when you have a shared science idea, it's very easy to make friends in the science world, no matter where you're from. Sometimes you can help, just having a bit more of a cultural insight can help those discussions go a little more smoothly. So that was great as well. And finally, I suppose, just seeing the tremendous expertise from the Amazon Web Service, CSIRO, Digital Earth Australia and Frontier SI, technical experts. I have so much respect for you all. You have incredible capabilities and you're doing such good things. So yeah, it's been a wonderful week. And although today is, you know, it's the end of one chapter, it's not the end of the book. It's the start of the next chapter, which is this next session, and that's exciting too. So that's a lot for me. Probably time to turn to other people.
That was so wonderful. Thank you, Emma. Those were really sweet, heartfelt words. Thank you very much. And I'll pass to Caitlin now. What have you enjoyed most in the week?
I've been really thrilled with being able to see people networking and talking about really interesting ideas together, and also how many people sort of came along to our more technical drop-in sessions looking for different kinds of support. So we've talked about, you know, how to access data sets and which data sets are the right options for the problem people are trying to solve. So that's been really, really fantastic. And also to see people supporting each other, not just from the organization team, but participants supporting each other and speaking with each other. It seems like lots of people have made really great, genuine connections over the course of the week. So I'm absolutely delighted that we've been able to have that. So thank you to everyone who came along and participated. We couldn't have had this week and this sort of success without you. And I, along with everyone, I think we're really excited to hear a little bit more about all your ideas. I certainly know that things I've heard already have been fantastic and are likely to have a big impact. So yeah, looking forward to the presentation. Thank you, Roshni.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Caitlin. And I'll pass over now to Rachel to tell us what she's enjoyed most about the week as well.
Thanks, Rosh. I guess my favorite part was the breadth of variety in the thematic composition of the keynote speakers. I think from technical expertise to cultural significance between Australia and Southeast Asia, and then the legality of space and space operations. So really interesting. I got a lot personally out of it. So really excited to hear what, you know, the participants think as well. Thanks, Rosh.
Thank you, Rachel. So we'll start off in a couple of minutes, and in the meantime, I'd like to open the floor to any of our participants here today who haven't yet shared their presentation slide deck by email with me. My email address is in the chat. I'll put it in there again for anyone who doesn't have it. Please send through your final presentation over to me, and I will make sure that it's added to the list and you'll have a chance to speak today. So we'll just give it another couple of minutes, maybe another 2-3 minutes. Any of our participants who have joined us this week, you are our guests of honour in this closing ceremony. If there is something that you have really enjoyed or really gained, please unmute your microphone and speak to us now.
So next.
Come on, someone has to say that they loved my dad jokes, right? Does anyone have a dad joke, maybe?
I've got a dad joke. How
Brilliant.
do you tell the gender of ants? And I'm going to also type this one in chat. Just how? It's very easy. You throw the ants into a bucket of water, and if they're girl ants, they sink. If they're boy ants, they're boy ant.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Oh
That's a
dear.
good one. I hadn't heard that one.
You asked for it, Roshni, and you got it.
I ask for it all the time and I don't get it all the time, so I'm quite pleased. All right, so
Okay.
we're just waiting for one more of our judges to join us.
No.
So what I might do is ask some of our judges who are here today to introduce themselves. And just before we do that, I'll put out the caveat that our judges today are not scary figures to put on a pedestal. They are very worthy of being on pedestals. They're very experienced, very smart, very amazing people with lots of great things under their belt. But at the same time, they're very approachable and friendly, and they are excellent coaches and mentors to many people in the industry. So I'd like to start off with a familiar face. Emma, please introduce yourself to our participants again and to the other judges.
Sure. So I'm Emma Luke. I'm the Acting Director for the National Planning and International Relations section within Geoscience Australia, part of this organising committee for this great week. And the perspective I'll be bringing to judging or coaching the proposals will be to just look at the overall strength of the pitch of the proposal, and if there's a way I can suggest to strengthen that pitch and make it more compelling to investors or funders, then I'll suggest it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emma. And as you all know, Emma is really, really here to help us all. And she's really good at giving very nurturing advice. So she's very friendly, not scary at all. I'd now like to introduce one of my personal mentors and general favourite people on the planet, Phil Delaney.
Thank you, Roshni. Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Delaney. I'm the Deputy CEO at Frontier SI. I have a background that's been about spatial technology, either things like, selling Earth observation data or being the GIS analyst on a whole range of projects. I'm now more about kind of helping bring interesting ideas through to real world products and services and shepherding projects through that journey. And so that's the lens that I'm going to take to the judging today, is to be looking at the overall kind of strategy and timing and way in which an idea might make its way from something that's just an idea through to something that some people might find really useful or impactful.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Phil. And some of you would have recalled the incredibly useful sessions that we had with Asialink Business. I'd now like to introduce Robert Law from Asialink as well. Robert, tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Roshni, and it's very exciting to be here. I know you met some of my colleagues earlier in the week, and we're super excited to support this hackathon. I'm the Director of Advisory and Insights at Asialink Business. My career, I've been a strategy consultant, a diplomat and an intelligence analyst. one of the common themes running through my career is really about Southeast Asia. So I've spent the last 15 plus years working on Southeast Asia, including 4 years based at the Australian Embassy in Jakarta. And while I was in Indonesia, I spent a lot of time focused on natural resources and the physical environment and how to better manage those resources. So really relevant to what's happening here today. And in my consulting work, I've advised, you know, businesses from big Australian corporates down to small tech startups on their strategy. So also looking to hear about what your strategy is around your idea today. So I'd also say to everyone, there's no wrong answers. So just get involved and love to hear where you've gotten up to and how we can take it further.
Fabulous. Thank you very, very much, Rob. So our last two judges are, one of them is Dr. Jasmine Muir, who is going to be reviewing the recording as she is caught up in some engagements at the moment. And the other one, Professor Stuart Finn, has emailed to say that he is running slightly late, so he will be joining us very, very soon. So while we're waiting for Stuart to join us, I would really like to hear from some other members of our team, especially some of the tech team, to tell us what they've really enjoyed about this week so far. So Eric, I'll pass over to you to share some of your insights with us.
Sure, thanks, Roshni. I guess the highlight for me was being able to have productive discussions and a good chats with whoever requires technical advice, I suppose. Just being able to show them the ropes a bit and solve their issues, you know, basic coding issues, and also, you know, issues related to their application. Trying to help them out, you know, trying to find scientific baseline for them to work from, and you know, not having the answers to everything, unfortunately, but being able to point them in the right direction, hopefully. I guess that's what I like about my job, and especially this this session during this week, this hackathon week.
Thank you very much, Eric. And lastly, I'd like to ask Matt Patchett to tell us what he's enjoyed most about this week.
Thanks, Rossi. Look, it's run really smoothly in a sense. I think I'm going to echo some of Emma's comments last night that you know, it's really exciting for us as the organising crew, seeing how the week developed and seeing how people's interests developed, and as Eric said and Caitlin said as well, it's seeing the ideas form and germinate, if you like, from possibilities down to concepts and threads and pictures and so forth. So really looking forward to it. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you so much, Matt. So Stuart, I was hoping you might be able to quickly introduce yourself. We've been speaking as the organising team about what we've enjoyed most, and the other judges have introduced themselves. So over to you.
Thanks, Roshni. Afternoon, everyone. My name's Stuart Finn from the University of Queensland. I'm also part of Earth Observation Australia. I've been running an hour late all of today, so I'm just happy to be here and sit down. Thanks, Roshni.
It's great to have you here, Stuart. So thank you again to our wonderful judges. I'd now like to propose an order in which the teams are able to present. I'd like to ask, first of all, are there any volunteers of those who have sent their presentations in? Would anybody really like to go first?
I would love to go first because I'm like one-person learner. Like, I'm not really pitching an idea, but I just want to showcase what I've got so far.
Great. So, Pin, we'll have you up first. Would anybody like to go after Pin as number 2, or would you like me to nominate someone?
Yeah, well, I can be the second one because I'll be also kind of same situation with Pinjin, just to share ideas.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Bam. Is anybody willing to go third?
Hi.
Hi, Lee.
Yeah, my team and I would like to go third.
Great, wonderful. Yeah. And after the University of Wollongong team, would anybody like to put their name down now, or should we come to that slightly closer to the time?
Hi, we would like to.
Yeah, Jenny, wonderful.
Yeah.
Jenny and team, fabulous. Who would like to go next after Jenny?
I jump in on 5th.
Gosh, legend. Fabulous. Great. Thank you. Would anyone like to volunteer themselves to go after Josh?
I don't mind where I go, but if you've got mine in the system yet or not. So.
I haven't received it yet, Steve, but I'm sure it's coming through.
Slot me in when I just sent a second one that's a smaller file size, so that might be helpful.
No worries. I'll keep an eye out for. I'll let you know when it comes.
You can put me in anywhere that's convenient. It's okay.
Great, thank you. Who would like to go after Josh and team? We have a couple of other places. Steve, is your last name Page? I think it is. I think yours just came through.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, my name Stephen Page. Yes,
I've got it. Fabulous. So what I might do is I'll pop you down after Josh and team, and then we've got Akash and team, and then Ilham, if you'd like to present with your team, and then we might wrap up with Fia, who I believe is Hyacinth. So I will put this order of presentations in the chat so that we are clear. If at any point anyone needs to change because something comes up, that's absolutely okay. Just let me know. And I believe we have one more presentation, or a lot of presenters who are coming a little later because they're caught up with some prayer ceremonies. So we will slot them in once we're able to, once they arrive. Without further ado, welcome Pinjin, take us away.
Yeah, I love to be here. Like this whole event has been mind blowing. Like I felt like I've got so much value. This is like the most like value getting event that I've attended. I mean, I don't really go to conferences, but when I do, I want to get value, right? And this is where I get value. Are you sharing slides, Roshni, or?
I can share them from my end unless you'd like to share them from your end.
I would love for you to share.
Great, let me do.
Is it okay that you're sharing? Okay, I see. So I didn't have anything in mind when I came to this, and when I was forming the group filling out the spreadsheet, I thought I put my name down, and I thought, well, I've got to put like a team name, and I just thought, okay, let's just put rice yum. Doesn't really mean anything, but I just sort of like fixated my mind about rice, and I thought I just have a look at potentially identifying rice paddies, because I've been eating quite a bit of rice, and especially I was growing up on a diet of rice. So I thought I'd have a look at that, especially the rice. I grew up in a rural China area where we're actually, in my area, I've witnessed how rice are grown, like they go through the cycles, the water in the paddies, sometimes let dry for the winter. and you see different things happening. It's just very dynamic. And I thought Southeast Asia is where I'm gonna do this study. Next slide, please. So one of the things that I care about more and more is food waste that's happening globally. Ever since I moved to Brisbane, I've I live by myself, and I become more and more aware of like how much food disrespect that I had before, because food was easy, you know, like was provided on the table by my parents. And I was just kind of like, yeah, it's okay, I don't want it, I just go through it. But this is accumulating problem from individuals. So I thought if we become more aware of like the cost in production, then we'll be more respectful to the food we eat. Next slide, please. So I thought about the way to do it is to educate. So I would like to do more education to young people, like especially school students, about production, like crop growth cycle, production challenges, opportunity cost related to production. Every bit of land that you use for this purpose is opportunity cost lost to another possible production. So everything we do, everything we consume doesn't come cheaply. It's just not monetary value. It's actually the cost of what if it was used for something else. And everything has to be balanced. And if we become more like aware and we contribute to a little bit of part in that whole micro world, then that's a good start. Like, and I just want to start with me. Next slide, please. So this week I've looked at RISE because I'm really new to the data science in Earth observation. I thought I'll take this opportunity to learn a lot about how data is derived, how to use Earth observation satellite data. So rice is obviously growing in different cycles, and it's growing in water, it has green vegetation. When it dies, the land is dry. So looking at 3 different indices and actually chart them with the assistance of like everybody technical support has made this possible. And I've learned a lot. I've learned how to use satellite data, learned how to use the formulas and to actually understand what each formula means, and how to make a conclusion based on what I see, and kind of like knowing how to take this further. Next slide, please. So the gap I see is like, if we want to fill the gap in generational understanding, we want to target, my target audience is actually primary high school students, to start them young and actually get them built up for success in terms of like energy saving. Every bit of production that comes through actually takes a bit of energy, even if it's just human resource energy or like electricity or fuel that's used. But like there's always energy that's being used to produce things, and I want to get that education in young. Next slide. So I have an actionable idea. So to educate about this, I can start a YouTube channel, and that dedicates to the education of using Earth observation to the general public. Get them to look, get them to think, get them to understand the whole thing. When you're told about one thing, you think, oh, it's just information. My parents tells me all the time to be respectful of food. But then when you actually have to think about what to look at, where to look at, how to look at, you actually start to become, oh, wow, there's so much depth in that. And I need to be really mindful about that. Thank you.
You stuck to time and you did so well. That was fantastic, Finn. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, coming up next, we have Bam. Bam, tell us all the good things.
Okay. Thanks, Rosh. Shall I share? I'll share from here. Okay, I'll try.
Sounds good. I've got your slide deck if you need me to share from here too.
Yes. Do you see my slide?
Wonderful, we do. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon again to everyone. And it's been a very, very nice experience with all of you this week. I made lots of friends. I should talk about it at the last slide, but I cannot wait. So many thanks to all of you, to the staff, to the participant. I made many new friends, and this has been a great learning. So let me go with my slide. So I will talk about an idea. I will just share it. This is not really for the like going to the next phase or just for information sharing. So trying to follow the same template, but it's just a personal idea, which is open to for collaboration to any other friends. As you can see here, I mentioned members, BAM, and anyone interested in joint collaboration. Like from now on, anytime we can be in touch. And I'm BAM from Madagascar originally, but I'm based in Japan. Okay, and here we go. This is the page for the pictures of the members. So for the moment, there is only myself. And these are the photo of those who would like to join. I call the group name Bambang. This is my name, but I realized in Indonesia, many people are called Bambang. And I also work a lot in Indonesia. So this is my field on disaster resilience, watershed management. And okay, what is the problem? Now, most of the hydrological models use, let's say, a single time, let's say the current time, 2022, let's say for land use change, or any hydrological model, you always need a land use map to put in, and it's always like 1 year data. So we only grasp this only 1 year. So I find it kind of a problem. And we need to, this is the problem, okay? So it's just like a single time. Now, the land use map of a given time does not reflect the change so far from the past. Also, the model only gives a simulation result based on that particular time or that particular year. So I was thinking it's a kind of, I don't know how much feasible it is, but like combining those land use change analysis and hydrological model, which already exist out there on the same platform, okay? So question is that possible? Is that difficult? And I would say the answer is no, it's easy. So this is about the EASI platform. Okay, and here we go. Complication and innovation. Okay, it's not easy. It is complicated. What is complicated? Running the hydrological model itself is a computer intensive task. We all know that. Most of the time, personal computers just, get it hang and you're stuck somewhere. Also combining the land use change detection on the same platform. For example, in our case here is EASI platform. It's very challenging, but I would say this could be the innovation here, okay? And what is the gap in the market? Limitations regarding simulation of water-related issues based on different time range, as I said earlier. And let's talk about the audience, maybe water professionals, local national governments, NGOs, industry, practitioners. So this is the big idea, that one I shared earlier, but like to give following the template here, how to solve, to make more impacts. Let's hope that this leads to more informed decision regarding water-related issues. And how will we overcome the challenges I mentioned earlier is by providing a platform, for example, web-based, as Pinjin mentioned earlier, why not YouTube and web server, etc., that can be user-friendly and supporting decision makers, students, anyone interested in that. And how will I reach that target market and detail the commercial potential? Okay, working on that now. Yes, so this big idea is like, for example, if I just choose one hydrological model, this is mode flow, but we can always choose like SWAT model. In Japan, they have get flows model. This is what we are using in Okinawa right now, underground, groundwater and surface water simulation. And this idea is to combine with the EASI platform. This is my first time to use it. And I'm very happy to learn a few skills. I will share later what I have done. So the idea is this EASI-based land use change detection and a readily available hydrological model on the same platform. So we may need some kind of tricks to adjust the APIs and codings and stuff like that. And okay, what did we learn? What did I learn? Is I tried to complete one of the study. Here is change detection. I chose one area in Indonesia. This is Wangi National Park, I guess, and trying to see the change detection. And right now the computer is still running. It takes lots of time. So these are the results I could show so far. And it goes well. It's very enjoyable. And let's see how it goes next. Okay, so I'll finish soon. The learnings. Yes, as I learned from Lotta and Shiraz, understanding more about cultural diversity, this cultural intelligence, this was something new for me. It indeed helped building trust. And the more we listen to others, we are empowered, and it reminds us of our own goals. Now I want to do lots of things on my side, and sharing our ideas open more opportunities. And these are the things that I just grabbed from the chats, like ideas first, technology second, which is very good. There is no such bad ideas. So let's just share whatever we have in mind. And customer identification, then product development. Who are our products for, and who are those users? Do they really need it? How do they want it? And then we should work on the product accordingly. Yes, so these are my presentation in a short, and I didn't put in the slides, but I wanted to write, please don't try to tell jokes to Rosh, otherwise she won't stop laughing. Anyway, this is it's been nice, and thank you so much. Yeah, Rosh, floor is yours.
Oh, Bam, we've never met in person, but I think you know me too well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was a great presentation. I will apologize that I got extremely caught up and excited after Pin's presentation that I launched straight into the next one, but I'd like to give the judges an opportunity now. Is there any feedback that you'd like to give to either Pin or Bam?
Well, as someone who's been involved in the this whole project from the very start, I've just been sitting here beaming to see the wonderful ideas that are coming out so far. I'm loving all of them. Maybe I'm a very bad judge, because if I had to rank these ideas, I don't think I could. So overall, I think both pitches had really good potential in terms of application. Pin's proposal came from a very unique perspective, which was the role of satellite imagery in supporting, I want to say sea change, like a major environmental change, like that. And I didn't really think about the importance of the imagery in terms of providing a driver of behavioural change at a large scale. But look, I mean, as someone who's very passionate about reducing waste and rubbish, I remember back to the time when somebody took a photograph of a seahorse that had its little tail curled around that cotton tip, and now everybody knows about marine plastics, and they're all trying to reduce the amount of plastics in the ocean. So imagery is really powerful. A YouTube channel is a definite way of reaching younger generations as well, which are the people that are really going to make the difference. So certainly love Pin's proposal. Bam, I just loved all your wordplay on EASI. It was terrific, and it was great to see you getting so many learnings out of the experience. Water, of course, is essential to both Australia and of course across Southeast Asia, and important in so many ways. I am not an expert, and we have people far more qualified in the room, but certainly there is great potential, I think, for the types of ideas that you've presented to be useful in the region. So that's my first thoughts.
Thank you, Emma. Would any of our other judges like to? Robert, tell us.
Thanks so much, Roshni. That was really great from both Pin and from Bam. Pin, I think you really, hit on something really incredible with your idea, because rice is just absolutely central to so many aspects of Southeast Asian culture. There's a saying in Indonesia that says, if you're not eating rice, then you're not eating, which basically means that it's bad practice to give someone a meal and not give them rice with the meal, because it's seen as an essential component of the meal. But what we see in countries like Indonesia and other parts of Southeast Asia is rice farming is highly variable, and there's all sorts of issues around smallholder farms and really fluctuating crop yields year to year. And when I was sort of listening to you talking and then bringing in the education side of it as well, my mind started screaming two-sided marketplace. Now, I don't know if you know what a two-sided marketplace is, but the classic example is the iTunes store, where iTunes store isn't really around these days, but used to be able to buy music from one side of the iTunes store as a consumer, but then on the other side, musicians used to upload songs and they had to pay for it as well. So you've sort of got revenue coming in from two streams. And I was thinking about your idea, and I was thinking, I wonder if there's a way that you could track rice harvests in Southeast Asia and sort of sell that data back to Southeast Asian governments or business, and then use that revenue to fund your education campaign into schools and your social media outreach and everything like that. So I thought that was great. Bam, I really liked yours as well. Plenty there worth sort of commenting on, but I will focus in on one aspect of yours, which I think is really interesting. And I think it goes to the challenges of finding product market fit for ideas across Southeast Asia and Australia. Your idea, I was thinking, who's the ideal customer for your idea? And in Australia, it's probably insurance companies, because we have all those challenges around flooding in Australia and whether or not homes can get insured. So in Australia, you might be looking to have insurance companies as your customer, but then in Southeast Asia, you might have a whole different customer base. You might be looking at disaster response agencies, government, international aid agencies, and very much bringing in that different perspective. So a really great idea, but potentially with different customer cohorts across different countries. But I thought both were great, and I loved both of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rob. Phil?
Thanks, guys. Really great ideas so far. What I was immediately captured by, so one of the things that drives a lot of the things that I do in my job is to make sure that we really understand the problem that we're solving before we do anything else. Bam, picking up your final slide around ideas first, I always think it's problems first, and then the ideas as to how we're going to solve that problem, and then the technology finally after that. And Pin, your explanation of the problem right first up was very personal, and as well as being clear. It explained a large problem, but from a personal point of view, which makes it really easy to connect with. And that would be, I think, the biggest challenge in your idea going forward, that the best value that you could provide is to take very complex science and explain it in that very personal way. But that is also a super difficult thing to do. So maintaining, as scientists, it can be a really hard thing for us not to go, look at all this big amount of detail that we had to do to get to this end result, and just focus on clearly explaining what the result means in the end. And I think if you can keep that, I guess the genuine personal storytelling as part of that end pitch through the education program, then that'll be the biggest thing that would make an idea like that successful. BAM, I've worked a lot in the hydrology space, and there's certainly, as Robert said, many different potential customers for the idea that you've got there. And I think the only thing that I would say as part of your pitch is there are so many problems, and so just provide one specific one as a good example. And that might also help to focus the first bit of work that you might want to do through this idea, is to, while there are lots of applications, let's just pick one clear one that we can see, oh yes, there's a direct benefit there, like the insurance side or a World Bank side or something like that, the Asia Development Bank. What is one detailed example that we can see of the problem that could be solved, because that will then help the rest of your presentation a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Stuart, would you like to add anything?
Thanks, Roshni. I think Pin and Bam, excellent presentations. I just build on what Phil just said to you, Pin, that if you can communicate at that personal level, and it's like, this is why it's important, you're going to get the message across to people.
I think Stuart's maybe having an internet moment.
At the starts to the solution, which is good. It just needs to be refined, and I think Robert gave you some ideas there as well, so that was like really good. Bam, I think you've got, I also agree with what Phil said. I did have a question for you. So Roshni, are we allowed to ask questions?
Yes.
Okay. Are you looking at land use or land cover?
Yes, at this moment, I use both in my current research now. But for this specific idea, I might have to choose one, maybe more on the land use.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you can specify that, that would really help, because the two are quite different. And very different in terms of the amount of effort you have to put into actually map land use as opposed to land cover. But I think the way you presented it all and built it off EASI was really effective. So it's been really good to just come into this at the end of today and see what you're doing. So yeah, thanks, Roshni.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. On to the next set of two presentations before we have more feedback from our judges. First, we'll have the University of Wollongong team, followed by Jenny and team. So Lee, take us away.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's an honor to be here presenting our big idea. So let me share my screen. Oops. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lee, and I'm from the University of Wollongong team. And today, on behalf of my team, I will present about our big idea for the climate change solutions in the Southeast Asia regions. And the title of our project is AI for Flood. So let me first introduce my team. So we have Professor Sơn Lâm Phung. He's the professor at University of Wollongong. We have Jason, Chief Technology Officer at Intelligent System Designs. We have Yang from, he's the first year PhD students at UW, and also me, and I'm also the first year PhD students at UW. So the problem we are tackling today, it's the flood issue in Vietnam. So Vietnam suffers from several tropical storms every year, which cause deadly floodings in several areas. So here we can see on the screen, we collect some example in recent years from 2020 to 2022. As you can see there, this is very devastating. So this is the statistic of the damage in the central Vietnam floods in 2020. So there are several severe flooding and landslides in 8 provinces in the country. The casualties were reported more than 300 people dead or missing, and more than 800 people injured. And the property damage is estimated 1.57 billion US dollar. So yeah, other than that, we also introduce other types of loss arising from the flood. So we have the direct tangible loss, which includes the damage of buildings, vehicles, livestock, crops. Direct loss, which is intangible, including lives and injuries, damage to cultural and heritage sites, ecological damage, and also the indirect loss. For example, the disruption to the transportation, business interruption, the stress and anxiety, and disruption to living. So, yeah. And so as the climate change issue becomes more, it's harder to predict every year. So it is very urgent to come up with innovative solutions to mitigate the flood consequence. So next, we identify the market gap, which essentially telling why our solution is essential in Vietnam specifically. And also we identify some target users, potential stakeholders for our solutions in Vietnam. So for the market gap, these are just some market gap that we identify, not very exhaustive. Not comprehensive, sorry. So there's poor land use planning, which means people settle in area with high exposure to floods. And also the second one, during the flood situation, even though it is very hard to locate exactly the location in general. So even though we have some tools like maps or sometimes rescue aircraft, sometimes the current the rescue teams have to rely on the local knowledge to guide a search. So yeah, and for the target users, these are some potential stakeholder we identify for our solutions. So including Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, the National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting, Vietnam Disaster Management Authority, the search and rescue organizations, provincial governments, and of course the humanitarian organizations such as UNICEF or Red Cross. Yeah, with the market gap that we identify today, we will introduce our solutions, which is the AI for flood. Yang will present the big idea for us. Yeah, I will pass to Yang. Yeah.
Our AI for flood system will include 2 parts. The first one is the flood mapping tool. The reason why we propose this is because the flood mapping is very important to flood risk management and risk reduction. The second part is the flood research and rescue. In this part, we will apply AI and IoT technology to conduct survivor detection, which can help more people be rescued. Next, please. For the flood mapping tool, we will use the EASI platform to generate RGB images, which can easily understood by the target users. With EASI platform, we can quickly classify each pixel belonging to which classes. And as the example showing on the right, We can mask the area of water from the data, and combining the information on human settlements, the potential food exposed area can be determined roughly. Next, please. Also, with the EASI platform, we can visualize the data captured from the last few years. So with this feature, the target users can have a comparison to this data. Then they will have a better decision for the next action. Next, please. The second part of our AI for flood system is to apply the drone to detect the people in the damaged area. The AI technology of object detection will be deployed on the drone. Then it can automatically detect the survivor and inform the rescue team timely. So this application can be alleviate the problem of insufficient manpower of rescue teams and save more lives from the flood. Yep, that's all our ideas. Yep.
Ali, you're just on mute.
Okay. Yeah, so we have summarized here some of our biggest learnings from this hackathon. But the first one is the technical element of that, which includes the imaging, civilian and humanitarian application of the Earth observation technologies, the EASI platform, AWS service for EO applications, IP considerations for startups, and more importantly, we have better awareness of the climate change issues in Southeast Asia countries. Yeah, that's our presentation for today. Thank you for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We'll have our next presentation as well with Jenny and team, and then we'll pass over to the judges. Judges, if I could ask that you keep your feedback to about 30 seconds, that would be fantastic. All right, Jenny and team, over to you, and thank you so much to the University of Wollongong team.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello. Let me share my screen. We are from Malaysia, from Sumber University of Technology. Yep. So we don't have like a concrete product in mind, but we would like to share some of our ideas for this event. And also thank you for organizing this event. We are very pleased to participate for this whole week, although we may not be that active this whole week, but it has been fun to getting to know each and every one of you from the Southeast Asia region. So who we are?
So we are from Aquist. We are interdisciplinary research group. So we work on many kinds of environmental research, and the three of us and Clarence, who just recently joined us as a master student, we work primarily on Earth observation data.
Yes, so this is the website from for our group. It is Aquatic Environmental Science Group. So generally, the problems that we face in Southeast Asia is the limitation of data. For example, historical and baseline data, and also the spatial coverage, especially on area size and also accessibility. Like some areas for example, in Borneo here, we have rough terrain, so it's hard to access even by road. So these are all the limitations that generally that we have, and these limitations often leads to various challenges, such as like water quality monitoring.
And an implication of land use changes to the environment, because we don't have really proper baseline mapping. So maybe the agriculture planning might be something that we can use. And then for the aquaculture farming, basically a lot of the aquaculture farming in Sarawak, it depends on the natural water resources such as rivers and dams. And also for wetlands, basically because Sarawak, the coastal waters are surrounded, we have mangrove on our coastal waters. So, but we don't have a map for that mangroves. So it's very hard to map it like a national park wetlands, basically. Yeah. So yeah, like Jenny said, we don't really have a concrete product, but it's sort of like a services, because what we are doing right now is developing a regional algorithm for vegetations and water qualities. So vegetations like oil palms and bananas or things like that, which from that algorithm, we can map the land use in Sarawak. And also as water qualities, we do have a lot of algorithms available and like shares in the notebooks, but it's not really calibrated for our waters. So that is why we have to have our own algorithm with a proper ground truthing. So with this data, we hope that we can help maybe for the aquaculture farming, for example, for hotspots for algal bloom, right? Maybe this will help these people from the aquaculture, for agriculture planning, maybe, yes, like, no,
Yeah.
biomass thing.
Yeah, so we work on oil palm detection, and we are working towards biomass mapping as well for Sarawak, Borneo. So Malaysia is like the second largest oil palm producer in the world. So, but we don't really have the oil palm map. We don't have the data. So that is what we're working on. So we have come with like our own oil palm map. So now we're moving towards a biomass mapping, looking into the oil palm.
Yeah, so basically from that agriculture, we can also expand it like for the wetlands mapping as well, because it's vegetations, right? So we can map all the mangroves and maybe pass it to the forestry for the next action plans are. And then we also have to take into account that environmental is also a not drivers, all that for sort of like drivers for diseases, especially like waterborne diseases, right? And in Malaysia we have this like flooding, all national disaster, especially flooding. So this might lead to waterborne diseases. Yeah, so maybe this the Ministry of Health probably can use this kind of data, the environmental data that because we wanted to develop our own regional algorithm, so they don't have to use get the satellite data themselves, right? And just maybe use this for their modeling, which we hope that could help. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of other options and things that we can expand, but that's what we are looking at the moment. So these are our target market audience, the governmental bodies, especially the Department of Environment, just like what we mentioned earlier, that water quality monitoring, for example, the DOE, they did a lot of in situ rather than the remote sensing. So it's not really, the spatial coverage is not big. So because we hope that it could sort of like provide more information to them, as well as the forestry department with the wetlands mapping, the fisheries department with the aquaculture thing, and Ministry of Health with our flooding, waterborne diseases. Yeah, so and then other environmental agencies and companies, like for those that do EIAs, environmental impact assessment, maybe this data could help them, and as well as NGOs that works with rivers and coastal waters. Yeah, so we also expanding to plastics and microplastics. So that's kind of it's a very big issue for us, for everyone, for global. Yeah, so we have new students that working on plastics and to see whether we can use remote sensing for plastics. Yeah, so basically that's what we're doing. So yeah. So from this hackathon, there's a lot of things that we already learned. So the main thing is the potential for to use the environmental observation data is vast and limitless. You just have to imagine and dream big. So a lot of things that we can do, but maybe this is what we can pick off now, but in the future, who knows, right? So yeah, and also the easy notebooks is very helpful. So that's what we're doing now. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jenny and team, and also to the University of Wollongong team. And my camera has frozen. Sorry about that. I will now pass over to our judges, who will have about 30 seconds each to tell us what they think about both of these beautiful presentations.
Yep, so Roshni, I'm happy to go first. Both ideas again were very exciting and have huge potential. I know that the other judges will cover off on market opportunity and the science. Certainly there's a big market in terms of the international development market for these kinds of products. Two things I think for both pitches is actually just refining, and it's been really hard because we've only had 1 week, right? Is continuing to condense and refine your narrative. So I think as someone who's worked both in government for a really long time, but has also had the experience of doing a lot of university science-based courses, the best way it's explained to me that when you're writing for maybe governments or funders, what you need to do is you need to get your whole scientific paper just down to and boil it down to an abstract. So it's really short and really tight. But both of those projects, those proposals are definitely heading around that direction. So well done.
Thank you, Emma. Who's next?
I can go next. So for the University of Wollongong, folks, I really like the explanation of the problem that too much of disaster response at the moment is about local knowledge. That's a really important problem to overcome, especially when the people that have those local knowledge might have their communication cut off or be lost or worse during an event like that. But that's also going to be the biggest hurdle that you'll have to get over, because people will often say, this is the way I make decisions now about these events. I don't see why we should change because, you know, that's the way that we've been doing it. So understanding people's behaviors around decision making is going to be as important as providing them the right information. And for Jenny's team as well, I really like the phrasing of your problems there about the historical data. I mean, if we don't understand the past, we can't predict the future. So that's a really important problem to overcome. Obviously, you've got a lot of ideas there as well, though. So if we could refine them, that'd be great. It's easy to do a short proof of concept with remote sensing. It's really hard to refine that to a good enough product that people can make trusted decisions on it regularly.
Roshni, I'm happy to go next.
Wonderful. Go for it.
So for so both presentations, excellent, highly professional and clear. So it was really good to see that in your graphics. The University of Wollongong team, just a couple of things to also consider with disasters. First one is a lot of agencies and from governments to communities, the timeliness in which you can provide that information is like the main factor. So that was one thing. If you could add it in, it would definitely improve what you're doing. And I also think you could keep it more focused on just the satellite-based service. And that relates to my last point, which is disaster provision services is a very, very crowded space. I'm not saying that as a disincentive, but if you are going to work in that space, make sure you understand to a certain extent what people are doing, but don't be bothered by it. But last one, just to the Aquas team, really excellent presentation. I think you've just started to pull everything together that's delivering a service that would work in an area really effectively. So other than it being a bit too pulled out from solving a problem, I could see that you've got clear links to applications and, you know, being able to map and measure changes in an area which a range of groups will use. So thanks, Roshni.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And Rob.
Yeah, look, thank you to both groups. Great to hear your pitches. What I liked about both of them was that you're both really focused on localization. How can you find things that are sort of really specific to the country, the area that you're in? I'd echo the comments of my fellow judges to say pick one use case. They're all great, but pick one and go deep on it. And for my for the University of Wollongong team, I'm going to put in the chat 2 links which might be useful to you. One is a report on agricultural technology in Vietnam that we did last year, which really talks about the huge opportunity in Vietnam's agricultural sector for Australian companies. And another is a link to an Australian government program called Oz for Innovation, which, you know, what you're doing is quite aligned to their objectives. So I'll put both of those in the chat for you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much to all of our judges. Appreciate your feedback very much. So I will now pass on to Josh and team before we have Steve, and then we'll have our next round of feedback from the judges. So Josh and team, over to you.
It's just Josh, but I'll be talking to you today about a problem in the coastal infrastructure space. So the problem is around seawalls and breakwaters, and these are really commonly used for protecting our coastal infrastructure. So ports, marinas, airports, and even our beaches as well. And obviously, these are made up of individual units. They're usually rocks placed together, and they're not fixed together as one piece. They're actually can move. And that's not a problem when you have calm conditions like you see in the top right, but when you have calm conditions in the bottom right, if you have storm conditions in the bottom right, you can get these really powerful wave forces which move and damage those structures. And so as an idea of sort of money involved in maintaining these assets, after this storm in 2016, there was a $9 million upgrade on this breakwater here. And on an adjacent breakwater that's just out of the photo, there was a $20 million upgrade in 2013. So that's just the remediation costs. And then typically asset owners are spending about 1 to 2% of the asset value a year on maintenance. And in particular, these are really vulnerable to climate change. So not only just the changing frequency and magnitude of storm events, which will cause a problem, but also the size of the wave that can actually impact on a structure is very dependent on the water level that is actually at the toe of the structure. So if you have sea level rise, it means that a bigger wave can propagate in and you get higher wave forces and potentially more damage on that structure as well. So how is this done at the moment? How is monitoring of these structures done at the moment? Usually it's in a really reactionary way and at low frequency schedules. So you have UAV drones which can provide a great 3D model, but are not done very often. And you can have physical inspection as well. But it's a notoriously difficult environment. Not only have the waves to contend with, but also, you know, flying a UAV in winds and rain conditions, you know, can limit the applicability of that approach. You also have airspace restrictions. So you imagine lots of airports have this sort of defense, and obtaining a UAV license to fly around an airport is just, you know, so difficult to get that authority to fly. So it makes these sometimes really expensive endeavors. So what's the gap in the market? I guess it's changing it from a reactive or low frequency schedule approach to a more always on approach, where you're using Earth observation data to actually tackle this head on. And so there's key cost measures that can be addressed with the automation and processing of this workflow. So actually getting regular data and processing in the same way. But also you can really start to develop actionable insights on that. So triggers for remediation, but also even taking into account forecasts of waves. So if we know a wave event is coming next week, and we know that the structure is already damaged in a specific location, well, then we can provide really useful and timely information. So the big idea is then providing, is using SAR data. So for the purpose of this presentation, all we really need to know is that it's active remote sensing. So it's all weather, day and night. And it's got coherent illumination, which is really good for change detection. And what I envisage this as is sort of a subscription or tiered approach where you can offer a cheaper solution leveraging coarser data from providers like Sentinel-1 and Novasar, but then also moving into the higher resolution space and a more premium product where you have imagery down to resolutions of less than 1 meter, and you get really specific about where the damage is on your asset. And as we talked about before, it's really about shifting this to an always on approach and being able to forecast change, but also maybe looking as well about the time series of change. So a risk profile, if we're seeing deterioration over time and we see potentially even accelerating deterioration, well, then we can give the right information at the right time to have action on that. Onto what I've been doing this week is actually having a look at processing this data and seeing what we can get out of Sentinel-1. So I looked at this 2016 storm event at Cox Harbour, and I fit this Gaussian mixture model to really split the data into two groups. And I looked at how well, and what this map is presenting up here is how well correlated is that split to before and after the storm event. So we're actually picking up the signal that we want to see, which is the damage from the storm event. So you can see it picks up this orange area of most change, and that was where the most damage occurred to this infrastructure. We're also picking up other interesting things like this blue area where there was remediation works directly after the storm. So you're picking up that change again. And then there's lots going on within the marina itself. And you can see, you know, for instance, this mooring was damaged. And so you have different mooring patterns over that time as well that you're picking up. When we actually look at the data, I guess the key for me in this process was seeing that there's a really clear signal in the data that shows a pre-storm grouping, a post-storm grouping, and then after they went and did that $9 million of work, you see the remediation as well. So the signal's there. It's whether then we can look at validating that with ground truth data, and also looking at how that propagates into higher resolution data, and whether you can sort of get the predictions going without too many false positives as well. So the target market is massive in this space. It's these types of structures are widespread throughout Australia, Southeast Asia, and globally. The key market segment would be port authorities, which manage this, and governments as well. A lot of these are crown assets. And so I'd be looking to collaborate with an existing UAV monitoring provider as well to get that ground truth data and really also try and benefit them in the type of service that they can provide. And then the biggest learnings, I just wanted to say, I met it's a really diverse group, and I've really enjoyed talking to everyone, and I just really appreciated the generosity and warmth with experience and ideas. So thank you for letting me be a part.
Well, you can't see me. I'm apparently just a big black square, but well done, both teams. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was fantastic. Steve, are you able to share slides from your end?
Yeah, sure. I just have to get myself into presentation mode. Okay. Sharing screen. Have I done that? Not yet.
Not yet.
Sorry. I'm out of practice with this. Share screen. Okay.
All right, so we can see your PowerPoint window. Are you able to press present on the bottom right?
Yeah, that's correct?
Wonderful, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to have been here this week. I began the week with quite a number of project ideas. I picked this one. It's possibly one of the more technologically simpler, but perhaps it has more important capacity building opportunities, I thought. So that's why I picked this. So it's building local capacity for mapping and monitoring important bird and biodiversity areas. So this is me, just me in this group at the moment. I do have a couple of potential collaborators here in Malaysia, in Klang Valley, who work in environmental consulting and university landscape mapping programs. So they'd be quite interested to be involved in any of these projects that I do, people I already collaborate with. The problem is to monitor and map the integrity of the boundaries of important bird areas, now also known as key biodiversity areas. I'll explain the name changes in a minute. IBAs are a global conservation area classification led by BirdLife International and its global network of affiliated NGO partners. The Malaysian Nature Society is the partner in Malaysia. There's usually only one partner in each country. Areas may not be reserved landscapes. So as areas are compromised through damage, clearing or rezoning, boundaries need to be adjusted periodically. There's recently been just an adjustment of the boundaries, but it's really just a desktop exercise using the volunteers from the branches, updating the areas based on their knowledge of, and field work as well, of conservation integrity. But there won't be much line work mapping of the areas. So, so this is the Peninsula Malaysia key biodiversity areas. So where we are. So the areas were originally coined as important bird areas by BirdLife International, and their intention seems to have always been about habitat protection for all animals, even though their name focused on birds. But not everyone saw it that way. So a larger network in the last couple of years of international agencies has unified the IBAs into a bigger project called Key Biodiversity Areas, or sometimes called Key Bird and Biodiversity Areas. This is a slightly outdated map, but what it does show you is that these biodiversity areas, you can see the green areas are reserved areas. This is the national park. This is the state park. The red areas have no protection at all. You can see a large chunk of them are mangroves and peatland, just not protected at all. The striped areas have partial protection. So it's not based on government reserves, it's based on what forests are there and what we would like to see reserved. So as areas become compromised, the boundaries have to be redrawn. This is just a comparison. This is a concept called intact forest landscapes, which basically describe lands that are sufficient integrity that all native populations should be able to survive in them. So you can see it's a much smaller area, and the pink is the area that was lost to this classification in 2000 to 2013. So you can see it's quite significant too. And that doesn't mean the land has been cleared, it just means that it's lost a lot of that integrity for its conservation purposes. So the complication, problem we have with mapping forest areas here is that the reflectance patterns for forest canopy trees and plantation forest trees are quite similar. Rubber is essentially a forest tree. So at the resolution of Landsat or Sentinel, it becomes quite difficult. There are advantages in plantations are often in straight lines and things like that, but people have often found that even if you're using the imagery, it's often easier to do a lot of hand classification or manual classification. Another problem is that being NGO driven, responsibility for this monitoring and mapping, even though they're considered via an international category and it's recognised by the IUCN, the ownership of this concept in each country lies with the local group in that country, the local partner in that country. So they have limited capacity and funding. There's limited geospatial or Earth observation skills within the Nature Society, and some of this work in the past has been outsourced even to partner agencies in other countries, so partner NGOs. Countering this is we have a network of state M&S branches with enthusiastic and dedicated local volunteers who are a resource to be tapped. The gap in the market is really the lack of skills amongst volunteers within the Nature Society and a lack of connection between skilled local students and the Nature Society. So they take a pool of interns every year, but they're taking interns from their traditional universities, and universities are turning out really good landscape ecologist type students, are not necessarily making it in there. So that would be a good connection. So to avoid any danger of this sort of work being outsourced, it would be it'd be good if we can build this local capacity. Something I've been thinking about. So the big idea is to develop a workflow algorithm to use Earth observation for initial monitoring of IBA areas. And if we can do a test case in one area and develop a field workflow with volunteers from the local branches to ground truth and resolve issues around forest identification and identification of quality areas, because it's a quality assessment as well, and to collaborate with local universities to build capacity for some of this initial algorithm and even field work to involve skilled volunteers and who could become skilled volunteers or perhaps even future employees of M&S. So I would like to see the Nature Society end up with some geospatial expertise if we could do that, because at the moment it's quite small. It focuses more on community potential rather than commercial market potential. There may be opportunities in the future. I think an even bigger potential is if we could extend this to community monitoring of the government forest reserves. Not something the government would sit comfortably with, but something the community really likes to do. So from this week, it's been a wonderful week. I haven't, in the first few days, I wasn't able to get involved too much, but since then I've got to meet a lot of people from across the region with skills and enthusiasm, seen lots, but met quite a few as well. And thank you to the support team and organising team members. It's been great support and lots of knowledge and a very inspiring situation to be in. Thank you. Are we back?
Just wondering if Roshni's okay. Maybe her
Sorry, my computer had a bit of a camera freeze when I tried to turn it on. My apologies. Thank you very much, both of you, Josh and Steve. They were great presentations. So now I'm conscious of time. So judges, would you like to let us know your thoughts on these two wonderful presentations, please?
Yep, absolutely. So I'll go just quickly. Again, both ideas seemed very credible to me from where I stand. Again, what I'd recommend is just to continue to tighten the language and in pitching, who you're pitching to, think about who that is. If it's someone in Southeast Asia, use Southeast Asian examples. So definitely for Josh, it would be really great to see some examples of damage to infrastructure in Asia if you're trying to pitch this technology for the region. That will be really compelling. And then I think for Stephen, yes, it's a really important area to be working in. I think for both all the detail, the proposals are there, the merit of the work is strong. I'd like to see there being, and this goes actually for all of these pitches, if you could put one sentence, one line about what your proposal is about, something that we could put on a bumper bar sticker. Think about being able to do that and think about opening with that bold statement to really get the interest of the folk in and then go into the detail. That's me.
Thank you.
I'm happy to go next, Roshni. So both presentations excellent. Like Josh, I'm ready to buy that now. One recommendation is, I mean, often you see who the end user is, and it's like, I've got to engage with them. If you step back from that, there are some existing companies that already work in related areas and have the direct links into those. So potentially partnering with those. So I'll drop, there's one of these companies it's European but based in Australia called EOMAP. That might be a good way to sort of pitch forward to them to support, because they'll have the infrastructure, but you'd be offering something which is complementary to what they're doing, but all of their clients who want to know about harbours and infrastructure and all of those things, would be interested. So that one, I guess that with the second presentation, Steve, excellent. All I'm going to do is put in a link to Nick Murray's group at James Cook University, who are driven pretty much by mapping, I guess, different types of bird habitat globally and have a lot of the tools, but not necessarily connections. And it would be good to follow up with him as well.
That's, Stuart, that's a great segue for where I was going to go. Loved both ideas. My feedback for both is around commerciality. And Steve, I think commerciality is probably going to be the challenge for your idea. The thing that did jump out to me is the reference to universities and collaborating with them. And, we're seeing a lot more that universities that really want to be attractive to students are the ones that connect into industry. So universities might be your way to connect into businesses that will help you sort of answer that commerciality question for your idea. And Joshua, you have the opposite challenge. When you were talking about market sizing, and people sometimes talk about market sizing and they throw around numbers. This is a $2 billion opportunity. But once you start drilling down into it, you start asking a few questions around things like capacity to pay. Your idea is targeted in at organisations that do actually have capacity to pay. Port authorities, motorboat yacht clubs, those sort of organisations, associations, they can actually afford to pay for the service that you're proposing. So I think from a commercial perspective, yeah, quite interesting.
Cool. And I just closing that out, I think I support Stuart's comments, Josh, that there's certainly collaboration opportunities with existing businesses, but there's probably also a bit there to do in looking at the competitive landscape. The organisations that have commercial SAR satellites that will be doing monitoring already of dams and mining infrastructure would probably jump on something like this quickly as well. And so just having a look at, I guess, how you differentiate or complement what they've got is probably a really strong way forward. And Steve, I guess for those that don't know, Online Frontier SI is a not-for-profit, so I'm always going to support an idea like this. But two main comments. One, on your opening statement that this is going to be more technologically simple. I would sell that as a benefit, not a problem. We're a very complex area, so anything that is simpler is always better. But secondly, the idea that you've got there, I think you can test for the idea that you've got there, but has a lot of scale. If you take the concept that you've got there, which is large-scale volunteer groups that can provide ground truth data being matched to remote sensing applications, because the biggest issue and most costly issue for many remote sensing projects is understanding what's happening on the ground to be able to validate it. And there's a big opportunity with what you've got there. Tapping into volunteer groups for environmental monitoring is a great way to do that.
Thank you, thank you. Well, we'll now have a presentation from Akash and Hyacinth, and then Bintang and team, before we have our next judging feedback session, and then we'll finish up with the last two presentations, Ilham and group, and then Fia. So over to you, Akash and Hyacinth.
Hi, everybody. So just want to be conscious that I'll be presenting 3 ideas from 3 separate groups, 2 of which is collaboration with different individuals, and the last idea will be my own. But I'll try to keep it to less than 15 minutes so we can move on in time. I'll share my screen at this point. Could you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Disasterify. My name is Akash, and I'm partnering with Hyacinth to do this project. So I am an undergraduate from Singapore studying in environmental earth system science, and my research interest is climate systems and urbanization. And for Hyacinth, she's a faculty member at Holy Name University. She's a marine biologist doing research on mesophilic coral ecosystems. So the problem we have is that disaster rebuilding often is slow in less developed countries, where there is a slow recovery effort and limited mapping for post-disaster response. There's also issues of disaster resilience where they have limited infrastructure to protect against future climate-induced disasters, and especially for countries like Philippines, who experience more tropical cyclones, extreme El Nino events. So disaster resilience will be one of the more important facets of rebuilding efforts. So our answer, Disastify, aims to use artificial intelligence to map out before and after image to trace out what are the affected areas and, if possible, to understand how severe they are affected. Therefore, where are the priorities that resource should be dedicated to for rebuilding efforts. Next, it will also serve as a database for organizations such as NGOs, private corporations, governments to invest in disaster resilience infrastructure by looking at what kind of destruction occurred. So are we looking at the destruction of coastal seawalls? Are we looking at village destruction? Are we looking at agricultural land use destruction? And based on that, different governments can provide different services to rebuild these efforts. And since corporations are moving towards sustainability, this is a good way for them to showcase their true sustainable efforts by investing in rebuilding technologies. So one of the examples I'm using is the 2004 before and after image of Indonesia tsunami. So we have an image here where you can see that it is very far up. We are looking at about a few kilometers here, but we can clearly see that there is buildings here. For example, there is trees here, there's a road here and things like that. So we're trying to use a smart AI to use this, be very sensitive and trace out all these different land uses. Individual buildings are not necessary, but it'd be good to say that, okay, we have a group of trees over here, a group of buildings over here, and in the after image, they are no longer existent, therefore showing that there is a complete destruction. Whereas for this pixel, for example, the road here is still in the road here, so we can use this AI to say, okay, this road is not destroyed, so there's no rebuilding efforts really needed. So the gap in the market we observe is that currently there is not much software that automates the mapping of disaster-stricken areas. Currently, what we observe in my experience is that people tap on this mapathon process for volunteers to map out affected areas using OpenStreet access. So we aim to automate this process by using machine learning to speed up the disaster area identification, such that post-disaster resilience and recovery efforts can take place as soon as possible. So the complexity and innovation here is data availability, which is how often do we get satellite data? Sometimes it's about a few weeks, and next is whether or not data get affected by clouds. But the good thing is there are many satellites available. So the next issue will be, how do we integrate multiple satellite imagery? So for instance, if Sentinel-1 data is the first available data we have, and there is some region covered by cloud, can we tap on the next available satellite to fill this geospatial gap, such that we create a holistic mapping in the earliest possible time, instead of keep waiting for Sentinel-1 to keep giving us data that might be covered with clouds all the time. So this is our main idea. In terms of reflection, for me, I understand that there is the importance of remote sensing for disaster areas, and there's also some difficulty in choosing satellite data. And for Hyacinth, our discussion is fascinated by our cultural differences, and there is also challenges in developing countries to afford technology for such purposes. The understanding is that while technology is available and for our side, we can see what's happening in Philippines, but when it comes to people on the ground, they're not sure what to do and how to use the technology accessible to them. So that's one of the information gap we have to bridge as this technology becomes more advanced and available to us. So with that, I end my first presentation. I will go into the second idea, which is eco-trade work. This is my own idea for natural capital assessment. So eco-trade work is basically short form for ecosystem service trade-off network. So the problem here we have is that cities are expanding and new cities are being built. So what happens is that this will infringe rural areas, which comprise of forested areas, agricultural land use, habitats, and etc., and all of which have their respective ecosystem services. So there's also a gap in the market value natural capital. I'm quoting from Emma, which was mentioning this yesterday. So I think this is a good space to develop, especially in our research. We experience that natural capital is a very new field. We are now trying to understand what is the importance of nature habitats and how do we integrate this with the urban lived environment. So the answer is eco-trade work. And eco-trade work is a device which will tap on artificial intelligence to map out urban and rural ecosystems, such as parks, green spaces, forests, wetlands, etc. So these are the people that can be using this data. Governments can use this to inform urban planning. For instance, if I'm going to expand my city by 10 kilometers square, where am I going to be infringing into? How much will I lose in terms of ecosystem service, and is there any possibility to replenish this ecosystem service? The next thing we can look at is businesses which are developing all the time. They can understand the development impact on the environment in terms of how much ecosystem will be lost. Individuals can also use this to monitor urban livability, as we understand that if the urban ecosystems can be mapped out, individuals can put a location and look at what is the ecosystem service available and how good is the lived environment. And also, of course, academia can use this to model natural capital and do their research. So by creating a detailed geospatial mapping of natural capital, it allows key stakeholders to appreciate trade-offs in terms of development projects. An added extension to this eco-trade work is that the parameters of ecosystem service can be monitored to understand how are nature capital affecting our lived environment. So for instance, flood frequency, air quality, PSI pollutant levels, and shoreline retreat, and other factors that can be provided by ecosystem service. So what we're looking at is, for instance, we have an urban area that has a high pollutant level for air, and we notice that there is very little green spaces around the area. So we can say, okay, this is a part of the urban area that we need to do some reforestation or introduction of urban green spaces, green roofs, etc. So what this can do is it can further inform urban planning decisions as to whether or not additional NDS should be applied, and however this idea will be subjected to data availability and feasibility. So what I mean by feasibility is, can Earth observation data map what we cannot see from satellite imagery? For instance, do we need to sync external database about species ecosystem to make robust natural capital valuation? For instance, the map showed by Steve earlier that tells us where are the important bird areas. These are things that we will not be able to get from EO data. So can we sync it from these additional mapping devices? Next thing, ecosystems, we can only map using Earth observation what we can see. But what about those that's underwater? What about the undersea, river, fluvial, or coastal ecosystems? I'm not sure if that can be visible from EO data. So the last aim is we need to strive to get high resolution imagery from existing cities to understand how they are expanding and what is the different details that is present within the cities itself. So the end game here is really cost-benefit analysis, where stakeholders have a means of measuring the ecosystem service trade-off between city expansion and the loss of ecosystem. Further remediation involving ecosystem restoration, introduction of urban green space, and other similar measures can then be adopted using this cost-benefit analysis. Now, an extension of this project can go into desert urbanization, because we observe is that desert urbanization is a very new field, and it can be a strategy to create the urban heat reduction effect. So this idea can include to understand the trade-off between arid ecosystems and city expansion, which when we compare these to cities expanding into forests, it will compromise significantly less ecosystem service in carbon sequestration. Of course, this will be applicable more for Africa as well as North Asia and other deserted areas, not so much for Southeast Asia, but it's a further expansion of this idea. So the learnings and reflection that I got from doing this little presentation is that cities will continue to expand, and if ecosystem services must be compromised, then stakeholders ought to be strategic on where to induce urban expansion such that impacts on ecosystem services kept minimal. And next, what I also think is that nature-based solution is the future protection. It can be implemented on sites which lack this ecosystem service and improve urban livability and workability, in particular since cities are at the core of the economics and where population will continue growing. And that concludes the eco-trade works idea. And the last idea, it will be a collaborative idea that is very iffy because a lot of people contributed at different times. So I just made the effort to include everybody. And of course, to also understand that Marcial also contributed, and but this is the non-updated slide, so just mention her name here as well. So this is really a crop suitability map on the EASI mobile platform. A quick disclaimer is that I'm not an agriculture expert, so if this idea happens to pass through, I will not be the suitable person to continue this idea. No pun intended for suitability here. So if anybody is interested to take on this idea further, please feel free to go for it. So the problem here is that climate change is influencing agricultural production in Southeast Asia, and once again, strengthening droughts due to changes in El Nino, atmospheric circulation. We have strengthening tropical cyclones. These are all things that will destroy crops at a very large rate. So food security will become the future core issue in Southeast Asia. And other issues we can think about will be things like soil chemistry, salinity, evapotranspiration, and soil compaction. So the answer we have is the arable GPS device, where arable land is influenced by a combination of parameters observable from both EO data and on-site data, which farmers and NGOs have to collect. So when we look at EO data, we can look at things like soil moisture, drought expansion, precipitation regime, and things like that. In terms of on-site data, we'll have farmers plug in instruments into the soil and record the on-site data required to assess whether or not the land is arable, things like soil pH, nitrogen and phosphorus amounts, and other factors that can be collected on the ground. So the factors will combine and come up with a color gradient GPS to tell farmers which land is suitable for farming, which land is not suitable for farming. So climate change may lead to differing crop suitability. So we understand that there might be a database recommendation on the app about which crop is available and suitable for the combined abiotic and biotic location. So we understand that NGOs will need to be involved because they might have more expertise and access to information about which crop can develop under what kind of conditions. We also need a GPS that is very sensitive, such that it can record the correct geospatial location that the farmer is collecting data at, such that it can be synced accurately to the EO data that we collect from space. Next, we also will need to understand the soil components of the soil itself. The gap in the market here, and we're trying to look at target audience, which is how can farmers monitor. By the way, so I didn't mention gap in the market. The gap here is that I think there are lots of devices out there that can be smart and measure how suitable a particular land is for agriculture and any differences in between the same plot of land. But I think that we need a simpler device in which farmers are able to use easily and look and know, okay, this is a suitable land that is not. So we need an easier device, and this is what I'm trying to achieve. So target audience, we want to get farmers to monitor cropland suitability and also to help us to collect on-site data. Governments can use this to monitor food production nationally and identify areas that are having food security issues, and NGOs which assist in agriculture, village collaboration, and food security issues as well. So the complication and innovation here is that we might require a multivariate equation to combine all factors to generate a suitability index so that we can say, okay, green means score is 80 out of 100, 100 out of 100. This is very good for farming. And then some other land might be score about 50 out of 100 to say, okay, this is not very suitable for farming. You might need to add some fertilizer and things like that. Next, you may also experience potential issues in areas of conflict. You might have sabotage of land. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but we can't rule out that risk. And it also requires updated information. Satellite image might be difficult to get up-to-date information. There will be certain lag time of a few weeks. Sometimes things happen immediately and you need a response to it. So there may be lag time in information achievement. And to conclude, our biggest learning here is that new websites for collecting appropriate data for our current and future projects, as well as new tech innovations, does exist to solve these environmental problems. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for their attention, and I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Wow, Akash, that was amazing. And thank you so much to all of the other people who have contributed to those ideas as well. I'm pretty blown away. I might open up for feedback from our judges on all three of those presentations before we move on to the next presentation by Ilham.
Okay, happy to jump in first. Well done, Akash, and the broader project teams, Hyacinth, BAM, Pastra, and all of the other people. It was really lovely to see such highly collaborative projects being presented. I really loved these pictures, both in terms of the potential, but also in how they were presented. There's lots of attractive images on the slides. So there was a little bit of colour, but it wasn't distracting. There were key words. The first proposal, for example, had an interesting word that I didn't know what it was, and that got me curious. So as, you know, a potential investor, what is this disasterify? I've got to understand it. And I really liked the fact that you acknowledged one of my quotes, not because, you know, someone has actually for the first time quoted me, but because you've actually taken the time to understand who you're trying to target. You understand where they're coming from, what their interest is, and you've quoted it back at me. So that means that you're getting where I'm coming from and you've made your pitch accordingly. So very well done. yeah, I really liked these 3 ideas, and I really liked how they're presented.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Akash, you're a machine being able to pitch 3 ideas back to back like that. Most people find it very difficult to do one, and you did an exceptional job doing 3 in a row, which is a huge effort. A couple of comments on each of those platforms. One on the Disasterify, really clear link between problem and solution there, which was great. Just one thing to keep in mind is that during a disaster, getting more data and more information to people generally isn't the problem. They're generally overwhelmed by data. So it's making sure that the information that we're getting for them is right to fit into their decision making to make that process easier. Otherwise, all we're doing is adding to the overwhelming amount of information that gets thrown at the people on the ground after those events. On the second one, on the eco-trade work, it's definitely a big area. It's something that a lot of banks are really interested in, not just things like development banks, but any organization in any country in the world that is managing investments in the agriculture sector, which is great. I think just need to do a little bit on placing the tech against the existing kind of products and offering that are out there as well. And then on the last one, on the crop suitability, it is a really great idea. The main problem with anything to do with ag tech is that the adoption time can be really long. Most people don't like changing their practices. And so the value proposition to the people on the ground using this has to be so overwhelmingly amazing to get them to change how they run their routine every day of their 12-hour days, just to make that bit a little bit more punchy.
Akash, and I should say Akash and teams, because there are several teams, loved all the ideas. I think, Akash, the next step for you and your partners from here is to go deeper on the competitor analysis, because you've got a lot of great ideas out there, but you can't do everything. So you're probably going to need to hone in on just one of them and really go hard at that. And the way to decide to do that is to get a better understanding of the other offerings and companies and things that are out there in the space, and see where is that real gap that you can drive into. Now, I don't know the answer to that right now, but one thing you might want to look at, particularly for eco-trade work, and it's focus on urban ecosystems. Indonesia's building a new capital on Kalimantan, and the government's made a lot of promises about how it's going to be a really sustainable city. So maybe there's an opportunity there to get in and actually do the evaluation and the assessment of how sustainable will this new city actually be.
I don't have any major comments to add on top of everyone's, but I think, Akash, if you had to pick one of those to focus on, which one would it be and why?
Oh, wow, good question.
It's okay.
Because all three overlaps key global issues. So I will go for Disasterify actually, because I think that Disasterify is one of the. So let's just say Disasterify is where the issues are at, while eco-trade work is where. I don't want to use this phrase, but where the so-called money is at, that's where everybody is really focused on city development and valuing ecosystems. So yeah, I would go with Disasterify if I could. Eco-trade work will be something that I'll probably do as a research, as a career next time, so apart from Disasterify.
Okay, right. Thank you. Thanks, Roshni.
Wonderful. Wow. I'm honestly really annoyed at how my camera keeps freezing, but more than that, oh no, it's back. I'm really blown away by all of the presentations today. They just, keep me thinking, and I'm learning so much too. And it's really amazing just to see what's happened in 1 week. This is just 1 week. Imagine if we did this for longer. So thank you, Akash, and all of the people involved in all of the teams there. We'll pass over now to Ilham and Fia.
Sorry, Roshni. Ilham and who?
Oh, Fia is after you.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, that you're first.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm very happy also to see my previous supervisor, Professor Stewart, is here. He used to be my supervisor at UQ. That was a long time ago, 22 years ago, in 2000. Anyway, just allow me to just present a little bit of what I'm going to.
Rosni, you said that my portion after Akash, right? You missed.
Bintang, would you like to go after Ilham?
Wait, okay.
Oh, Bintang, are you ready, or it's okay? All right, because I've already been given. I won't be long anyway. Probably just a couple minutes, because I haven't been teamed up with anyone as well. So just allow me to share the screen. Okay. All right. Can you see the screen there?
Yes.
Roshni and everyone?
Yep. Are you able
Okay.
to click on present? We can see your PowerPoint window. Perfect. Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it's running still. All right, everyone. I'm Ilham Alimuddin. I put Steve here as I thought that I would be working together with him. But then we didn't really much time to discuss. So I thought that I would go for myself, as actually we in Indonesia, especially the Unhas team, Hasanuddin University, we are in South Sulawesi area, and we've been working also with Emma and Emmy for the platform of ODC, as what has been presented by Professor Roland and my counterpart, Mr. Andang. Can I just go on with this? Yeah, so I thought I will be working stuff. So anyway, the observation for the climate resilience that we have done, we've been trying to use this EOCSI platform in terms of trying to solve the problems happening in Indonesia, especially. But that used to be, we have done this, and we are trying to continue this project on any other platforms. So what I'm proposing is trying to map the existing conditions of flood-prone areas mapping. Why? Because we are facing intensive land erosions, and this also potential landslide that trigger flash floods in some of our prone mountainous areas. And we had a big one happen last year, and we want to really see these areas to be mapped prior to any happenings in terms of this floods and also flash floods, because floods is really happening most of the time once it's raining season. But then flash flood also could occur because of the nature of the condition of the area. And we are facing this problem because it's not mapped properly. And especially when it happens, we also don't have the support of satellite images at the same time for us to see what's actually happening. And I'm showing you one example that we faced last year, that we are still trying to find what cause of it and how we can handle it in the future. So mapping the existing conditions of the erosions, of the landslide prone factors in that area will help us, and also the local government, the community, to at least prepare what the potential hazard, either it's the flood itself, or which can create the flash floods, and also the landslides that can also trigger the flash floods. And this is the conditions that happened just last year. in what area in South Sulawesi, in the northern part of South Sulawesi, in Masamba. And this area is really damaged and very much covered by materials because of the flash flood. And what happened was we are trying to find images afterwards, but nearly for 2 or 3 days we cannot, well, because of the rain and the cloud cover. But thank God that after a couple of days we finally can get the image, and that really helped us to do the mapping and see the conditions of the area, as well as most important is how much area is inundated because of these flash floods, because it comes over from the hill into all the way to the coast. So this is what I'm facing. We are facing, yeah, especially for some of those flood-prone area that we want to tackle in the future using big data satellite images for early warning system of our areas. So as you can see, these images that we can capture because Lapan, you might be those who's been working with Indonesian satellites agencies familiar with Lapan, but we've been having some transformations on our research institutions become BRIN. So now it's beginning to be a bit harder also to get satellite images for local government because of this transformation, and it's not as easy to just directly get the images when, you know, disaster happens. And what we are proposing is hopefully I know there is a consortium for disaster management, but then I'm looking forward that this platform that we're working on with the ODC and also counterparts in Australia can really see how we can map these flood-prone areas. So then we can create an early warning system for us, then can solve and help the community. So as you can see, this is the image before, and this is the after that landslide that we can get, even though it was still cloud cover for that. So we are trying to see why suddenly we have this gigantic floods coming down into the city of Masamba. It really covered the city for the whole floods, and we finally can manage, and most of us, the geologists and others, can see the landslides happen actually because of the accumulations of these smaller landslides, and because of the nature of granitic rocks on the top of the hilly areas, and this bringing all the logs and everything down into the river. So thank God that we have this. So in the future, we would like to have more ready data that when disaster happens, we can directly have the availability of this. Also, of course, we are looking at the scale, not that very detailed, but at least it can, we can at least see some features of natural ecosystem that happens in the area. Why? Because then finally we can also do some simulation, some of historical mappings on the area. Then later on we can create what's so-called the prone mapping, the what you call the vulnerability map of the areas, and this will help us also to support and recommend to the government what we should do in terms of those highly prone areas that we need to be careful of, because there are some area that is really prone for landslide, but on the other side of the area they are very prone of floods, for example. So all this has to be supporting each other in terms of the satellite images. So we are hoping that the satellites availability, so far we have Landsats, MODIS, and now we have Sentinel that quite, I mean, don't have to pay for that because of the availability that we can use. And most important is that we also have the sensors that can also give us the opportunity to see other areas rather than having the optical data. So this is the Sentinel-1 data that can predict. We can see the flooded areas, because using the optical we are not able to see, not only because of the flood cover, but the cloud cover, but also because of the conditions on the land that we can see. This is important for us to really calculate like risk areas and affected areas that been inundated with the floods, and this all the challenge that we need to have for our future solutions. So what I'm saying is that the big idea here is that the provisions of the satellites data that can help us to monitor the situation then when disaster happens. So I'm hoping really having this hackathon, especially going to the next stage, we can do more algorithm to see the early warning system of flood prone areas inside. And having said that, I haven't really the full 5 days on the hackathon, but I've been observing the presentation of the Earth observations companies and those supporting, especially like Asialink. It's really great to have the cultural aspects. The EOCSI, it's been great to be supported with the platform, and hopefully this will continue with us. Emma and Amy and Matt and everyone who's been giving us the training. We will continually using and trying to see other areas that we want to do the analysis. So I think that's all that I'm sorry that it's not really planned very well in terms of data that we need and everything, but at least this opportunity for me is great to meet others, to build the network with the Australian institutions. I've been working with PAIR in Indonesia. We have Australia Indonesian Research Pair Network, and I've been involved with that as well. So I'm hoping to use this platform in the future to have more solutions on our problems. Thank you very much, Roshni.
Thank you so much, Ilham.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you also to one of our judges, Phil, who had to jump off, but rest assured, he will review all of the presentations that are coming, and we'll be in touch with the presenters with his feedback. So, and the other judges are all staying online, so not to worry there. I'll pass over now to Bintang and team, who have been waiting very patiently. Thank you so much, Bintang. Over to you.
Okay.
Mr. Hassan, would you mind to introduce our team?
Okay. Yes, I have to apologize. My name is Hassan. I'm team up with Bintang and also Afif. I would like to introduce my team. Bintang, could you share the presentation, please?
Roshni, would you mind to share the presentation, because I already sent you.
Yes, I can do
presentation
that.
via email.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Hassan, and I'm with Bintang and Afif from Indonesia, the biggest agriculture country in the world, I think. And we have more than 270 million in population, and most of them work in agriculture. And so what another is amazing is we have more than 110 local language, and most of the farmers speak their mother language and also the national language Indonesia, but we have a problem that they not well educated, especially in the climatology sectors. So what we are going to do is how to prototyping decision support toolset for Indonesian farmers. We are Garuda Mongso Nuswantoro 45. I'm Hassan, and next maybe this is me. Next slide, please. This is me, Hasan. I'm a geophysics on Gorontalo Geophysical Station, and Bintang is a cybersecurity analyst at SGAC Bandung, and Afif is our climatologist on Indonesian Climate Observatories of Gorontalo. So the next presentation will be I will be handed to Bintang. The time is yours, Bintang.
Here we want to define concise problem, right? We want to define clear problem because we want to know what's the real problem in real life situation, especially for local farmer. The first one is how to utilize the EO data regarding climate change forecast for rural agriculture territory. This is the first one. And then the second one is how to convert the scientific terms related climate change forecast into non-formal language, local language. For example, like Japanese language, Sundanese language, Celebes language, Aceh language, Sumatra language, or probably Papua language. Okay. As you know, as stated by Mr. Hasan, most of the local farmers are not well educated. So we want to translate the scientific terms, the complicated terms into non-formal language. Not using English or Indonesia, just local language. This is the second one. And then the third one is it feasible to devise friendly and also secure dashboard as EASI as a back end, as I shared to you in the picture on the left one. Yeah, this is a dashboard. Yes, friendly and secure dashboard, and using EASI platform as a back end for processing the solver base, including the AI, probably including the smart AI and machine learning. Yeah, for potential customer refers to absolutely local farmer. Continue to the next slide, Rosny. Great. Here I provide you some kind of reasoning. So reasoning pathways this is so beneficial for us as a benchmarking starting point to figure out the problem, to figure out the real problem by developing reasoning pathways. Yeah, something like that. This is, you want to split the training data, validation and testing data, and then put it into the machine learning models, the black box model, right? I call them black box. Yeah, utilized by using pre-trained machine learning or deep learning models. Yeah, using an existing platform, using existing cutting-edge AI or machine learning or deep learning platform, and then using the robust activation function for producing the predicted rule, and then back propagate using the gain control as a tuning parameter in order to mimic the actual rule that we already seen in the in real life problem. Okay, continue to the next slide. Mostly it had the challenge here. The previous ones were technical aspect, and then we continue to the agricultural market. Yeah, Indonesian focus on agricultural market. The actual gap is the first one, as I told you all, lack of basic knowledge, about regarding climate change forecasting. And the second one, lack of communication skill in both in English and Indonesia. They were familiar, they were, how can I say, they were friendly with, that were comfortable with local language, right? Not using English or not using Indonesia or even English. And then the third one is lack of business knowledge on how to monetize, on how to marketing their farming product into trading, how can I say, trading place. And for the target customer, absolutely rural agricultural farmer is a main target. Continue to the next slide, Rosny. Thank you. Here we propose a decision support tool set consisting of 3 sections. The first one is agricultural farm digitalization, and then the second one is building up the text to voice, voice to next architecture using a cutting edge NLP. Probably suggested with Clean, but Kathleen, but for Kathleen, for previous, previous open tech drop-in session, she told me that it's very good to using a commercial reliable AI machine learning, in this case NLP platform, using Amazon, for example, Amazon Comprehend, for instance. And then the last one, the last but not least, is MVP for market potential. We want to develop a minimum viable product for market potential to assist local farmer. That's it. This core. This is the core features regarding decision for the decision support tool set for local farmer. Continue to the next slide, Rosny, please. Great. This we want to focus on. Take a deep look, take a deep dive into first section. I mean the digitalization of science. We want to fostering the cross-disciplinary EO science through both elaborating open source and commercial big data analytics and machine learning, deep learning, web-based platform to learning the coverage area of agriculture, rural agriculture, as well as learning the humidity, learning the distribution, temperature, pressure, all related physical variable of climate change forecasting. And then we want to learn about the terrain data, how can I say, terrain, the structure of geostructure of agricultural land. Since in Indonesia there are so many variants of terrain data, so many complicated geostructure. We want to learn how satellite imagery transmit the associated signal to the coverage area in such a way that we can obtain the necessary data, both in physical climate change or another things related to coverage area terrain data. And then this I will show you this. The last one is long-term agricultural smart farming, shown in in the right upper one. And then continue to the next slide, please. Here we want this. Previously, the first section and the second one is about technical aspect. This is for developing the interactive communication between users and software-based app. Software-based app refers to decision support tool set. We want to develop interactive communication between user, which is dedicated for local farmers. Using this, I adopted from Amazon Comprehend. Let me explain you a little bit about the workflow. The architecture, about this architecture, developed by Amazon Comprehend related natural language processing. The first, the back-end user or administrator use Amazon Web Service Management Console and Command Line interface to upload the PDF document or image to S3 bucket. And second one, Amazon S3 upload the trigger to AWS Lambda function, and then thirdly, Lambda function invokes an Amazon text extract, start document text dictation API, which set up an asynchronous job to detect the text from the PDF you upload. And then Amazon text extract notify when text processing is complete. Text notify the Amazon SNS, and fifth, second Lambda function get notification from SNS topic when job is complete to detect test, and blah 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 until to the last session, which is on point 9, the deploy the Lexbox web UI using the iOS Cloud Formation, by managing the data structure and the Cloud Formation stack and nested stack, and deploy a web UI for chatbot, and then by leveraging the web UI, use Amazon Cognito to generate the token for authentication, to generate the accessible token for authentication, and use iOS CodeStar to deliver a pipeline, and then this user to interact with chatbot web UI. That's my that's all I know regarding this workflow. Probably this will be useful for developing internet communication. Continue to the next slide, Rosni. This is about MVP for market. I taken this source from the Springer. This about the platform services, and value chain and third party analytics on cloud EO, present geosharing platform. Actually, my expertise not in this MVP market. I'm just learning so fast from reliable reference from internet, about how to use this, this, how can I say, value chain cloud, value chain analytics, and cloud EO platform for automating the business process. Continue to the last slide, Rosni. Great. Here our upcoming works. We split our work into two different activities. The first one about technical, and the second one about business or market aspect. For technical stuff, we want to working on the prototyping, the software-based decision support tool set by leveraging this I told you previously, EASI platform, with other complementary tools like Amazon's Comprehend for developing NLP, as well as developing a notebook repository and deploying it into cloud-based platform. Notebook repository, as a tutorial, right, for technical stuff, or probably for the prospective technician to learn on how to develop this decision support tool set. And the second one is collecting all of the relevant resources regarding local language, from Sabang into Merauke. Sabang is on the edge of Aceh, and Merauke is located on the west part, the most west part of Papua. We want to collect all of the resources, local language, as a native communication between local farmers. And then the last one for technical stuff is developing friendly user interface, and not only friendly but secure user interfaces. Because cybersecurity is so crucial, right, in this 21st century. Cybersecurity, for instance, we want to develop accurate local territory, agricultural map for spatial data. This is a user interface. We want to display the agricultural map for spatial data. So when the local farmer read the data, they so quickly understand, oh, the meaning of this data like this. Oh, the meaning of this. Oh, what should I do? Oh, I should do the next step. I should do the second. I should do the upcoming step. So also on, and then I want that the decision support tool set will be how can I say, digestible software, digestible app. So when local farmer see the apps, they quickly understand what does the the visualization means, what does the visualization mean, and they can take so fast, so they can take how can I say, they can have a decision retrieval so fast. So they will have, so that's what we want for developing the decision support tool set. And last but not least is business or market aspect. We want to working on transformative digital economy for local agricultural farmer, by elaborating the technical stuff and the practical knowledge of business, at least for MVP. Business knowledge for farmer. Farmer just need practical knowledge, as I told you, not complicated knowledge. That's why we want to make it so practical, so simple, so that local farmer can grasp, can understand so fast when they learn. Oh, I should do this. I should do this. That's what we want. Thank you. Thank you for our presentation. Probably if someone want to ask, want to inquire some question for our team.
Thank you very much, Bintang. Appreciate it. Over to our judges.
Oh, look, there was so much to love about each of these last two presentations. I think the thing that impressed me so much in both cases was the passion that each pitch was put forward with. In the first presentation, you could see it really was a very important issue to the folk in Indonesia. And I think, like, just coming back to, if we look at Pin Jin's presentation, just making it a really personal story helps to connect the potential funder to the importance of the work. So if it's a matter of telling a story first to just get those investors or government organisations interested in asking themselves why they need to invest in this project, that would be a great way to do it. For both presentations, I think we could pick up here on some of the points that the Asialink group made earlier in the week, which is, again, think about who you're pitching to and what styles of communication they use. Are they informal? Do they like to talk about the whole picture of family and everything, or are they perhaps Australian where they're very direct and perhaps like a short version and then moving in to think about all the other connections? But otherwise both were very good, and it's really exciting to see how the journey, mostly with CSIRO and UNHAS and all our other lovely Indonesian partners, has progressed, and the passion for the platform and its potential. Thank you.
Go for it, Stuart.
Sorry, I thought Rob was about to talk. Go for it, Rob. I'm late.
Oh, no, after you, Stuart, please.
Okay, thanks. Apologies if my dog jumps up one bit as well. So
we're very dog friendly here, Stuart. We encourage this.
He's about to lose his brain from lack of food. So both excellent talks. Really great to see Elliot after 20 years. We've clearly not aged either, so it's good. With both of the talks, one of the interesting points I thought that was common, I think it would have helped to flip your talks around a bit with almost the solutions right at the start. I think there's two ways of presenting things. What Emma just said definitely makes sense, but I don't know, maybe it's the way I sort of look at it. It was like I wanted to see the solution. And I think that the maps, Ilya, that you had in yours, like the before and after aerial, satellite images, showed the problem and what you were doing a lot more clearly. So that was one suggestion with that presentation. I think with the second presentation from Hassan Bintang and Afif, excellent. The problem, you've hit a problem from, I guess, an Indonesian perspective. That's such a global issue, what you have proposed there. That is one of the biggest barriers we see in agriculture and horticulture to people who need the information, adopting it, is getting it in a form that they can engage with it, consume it, work out whether they trust it or not.
Yeah.
And
communication, most important role, right? Communication. Yeah, I have compelling reason. I will show you probably next week or 2 weeks. I have compelling advice. I will show you the video and how they are so difficult in, how can I say, in communicating their capability. You know, lack of communication skill. I must say, yeah, they are comfortable with local language. They are so comfortable with local language, not Indonesia or even English, as I told.
So, like, if you address that in Indonesia, and I would see other groups wanting to do similar things, like they could come to you for other parts of the world where they're trying to do the same thing. So that really got me thinking. So yeah, thanks, good work.
Probably you want to discuss more with me. You can share your email, Mr. Swat.
Yep.
I'll now pass over to Rob. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Roshni. Do you mind if I just quickly speak Indonesian just a little bit?
Of course.
Pak Ilham, Pak Bintang, terima kasih atas presentasi Anda ya. Pak Ilham, tantangan itu sangat penting ya, karena mengurangi banjir dan longsor di daerah itu sangat penting. Dan Pak Bintang juga, ini sangat susah ya, mengubah perilaku petani itu sangat susah. Jadi ini tantangan yang sangat penting. But for both of you, I was just saying how much I love the ideas and how big the challenges are. But for both of you, I think the challenge is where are the funds going to come from? Who's going to support this in a commercial sense? Who's going to put resources behind this? So for the next stage for your work here, I would encourage you to think about who are you going to target? Who is going to be able to fund this important work that you are doing, yes? Terima kasih banyak ya.
Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it. So we will now have our final presentation of the day, which is from Lila. Over to you, Lila. You're on mute.
Yeah, she's still muted. Okay.
I'm in.
Yes, yes. Would you like to share your slides, or would you like me to share them from this end?
I would like you to share my slides.
No
Roshni,
problems.
please.
Yes. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Right, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see any. Okay.
There we go.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. The project that I have contemplated on is the greening of Negros. I have not been teamed up with anyone, so I am alone in this endeavor for now. Can we have the next slide, please? Yes, I am a faculty of Negros Oriental State University. One of the functions of the university is to translate instruction in the classroom into actual, tangible endeavors, and that is creation of communities whose level of awareness on some environmental issues is in consonance with the university's mission and vision. Next slide, please. Yes, Negros Oriental State University is based in Negros Island. It is an island in the central Visayas region in the Philippines with a land area of 12,706 square kilometers or 4,906 square miles. Next slide, please. I have noticed that in Negros, several forested regions in the past have apparently shown signs of death to plants. If one is to run or running from the southern tip of Negros Oriental to the central part, one sees brown colors of land apparently from Shaton to Darwin areas near Mount Talinis. The site is intriguing because brown signifies death to plants and trees. The investigation seeks to answer the following. Is there heat emanating from underneath causing death to vegetation? Next, number 2, what is the humidity level in the areas of interest? And number 3, what is the frequency of flooding in the areas of interest? Next slide, please. Now, for a greening project, there is a need of background data on land surface temperature, humidity, flooding, precipitation, and other factors which might affect the growth of trees and vegetation. Next slide, please. The greening or tree planting, tree growing seems to be the most traditional way to create carbon sinks, while new technologies like direct carbon capture has been developed to capture and process huge amounts of carbon from the air. Its operation is not feasible in developing countries like the Philippines, where most of government funds have yet to be allocated to very basic services. Secondly, its operation entails huge amounts of money and energy. Next slide, please. So, tree growing or tree greening or tree planting still remains as a viable procedure to sequester carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It gives off oxygen for man, and man gives off carbon dioxide for plants and trees. Number 2, we intend to involve communities in the said project. Most of the tree planting endeavors failed because it was carried out by NGOs without involvement of communities living in the area. Number 3, we intend to plant trees, fruit trees that will help augment the livelihood of communities living in said areas and teach them how to process the produce in order to translate those processed produce into income. Next slide, please. Now, the biggest learning that I got in this activity for the past 5 days is collaboration. Collaboration provides an easier way of pulling efforts together, and I would like to thank the organizers of the hackathon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Laila. We really appreciate it. And I'll pass over to our judges now for the final comments. And my camera has frozen again.
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Lila. It's been a pleasure to meet you this week, and we've enjoyed the collaboration as much as we hope the other participants have. It's been a real honour to put this event on. In terms of your proposal, I liked it. I found the maps really interesting and attractive. More confidence, speak with more confidence, because this is an area that is really important, and I think you've got a good idea here. So I don't think I have any more specific comments other than you could say something to link with the policy drivers. So maybe just talking about how much your government's investing in greening of the Philippines to prevent or to reduce the impact of climate change or something along those lines. But it's really good. Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks. I really appreciated your presentation. I think this is a space that is really developing quite rapidly. and there are a lot of opportunities in this space. I'm going to put in the chat for you the name of an organisation. They're called South Pole, but it's worth just taking a look at what they do. Maybe you'll get some ideas around your project. They're really all about how do you connect sort of carbon capture in forests and landscapes to make them financially and commercially viable. So I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lila. That was a very thorough presentation. So I think you covered those parts in detail. I don't have anything in detail to add other than agreeing with what Robert's just said. Like, we're starting to see a number of companies doing what you're proposing. But one of the differentiating factors that some of them haven't picked up is that tie to a local area or a region, and trying to come up with these solutions that work across the entire planet or, you know, a whole country. Whereas if you're building something that works specifically for a region, which is what you're suggesting, that's a really effective way, you know, to actually engage with those potential users. So that was all the comments I had, but I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So hopefully it's back to Roshni now, if her computer's working.
Well, while we're waiting for Roshni, perhaps we could all just clap our hands, or maybe even come off the mute and say a big thank you to Roshni, because she, like I've said it before, but she has been the glue this week. So thank you for putting together a wonderful week.
Thank you, Roshni.
Yeah, she worked very hard.
Thank you, Rosh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roshni. Excellent. Great support.
Yeah, and perhaps while we're just waiting, we might give please exclude me because I'm the project team, I don't really count, but please give a big clap of applause to our judges for their great help and good advice, which will help bring these ideas a little further down that value chain.
And we need to say such a big thank you to all of our presenters today. Let me just say, this has been magnificent. I am blown away. I cannot believe what you've done in just 1 week. Just 1 week, and you've created these incredible ideas that have so much potential and really can make a difference and could change the way that we as humans are able to live on this incredible planet that gives us life. So really, for each and every one of you, my heartfelt, deepest thank you for participating in this hackathon. As Caitlin says, you've all done an amazing amount of learning and work in a single week. We know it's not easy. I mean, the platform is easy. Of course, you'll all have to put up with my sense of humor. I'm sorry, I can't help it. But thank you all very much. I'd like to also say that 2 very quick things. One is that we have the evaluation survey. I've just put a link into the chat. We love holding these events. We love being able to create these opportunities for you. So if you enjoyed it, please take 2 minutes to fill out this form so that we are able to keep running events like this, so that people can come together and converge and collaborate for impact, for the good of our planet and the good of society. And secondly, is that there's a file that I put into the chat, which is the phase 2 application form. So as well as completing these presentations today, I would strongly encourage each and every one of you to complete the phase 2 application form. We will be running phase 2 over several months between now and February. and essentially you'll have the chance to take your idea, get dedicated training and business support and support in being able to take your idea, shape it even further. If this is what you've done in 1 week, imagine what you could do by February. It's free to apply. The program does not cost you any money, and we really hope that you have enjoyed the feedback from our judges today and are inspired, because we would love to help you to take your idea and make it bigger even more. Thank you, everybody. I'm just so grateful. I'm really touched by the incredible amounts of dedication and effort that you've all shown. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Does anyone have any final questions?
I think we're at that end of having a week together where you get a little bit of sadness because you've come to know these people as well as your own family. And I think, considering we've had to do this over a Zoom call rather than an in face-to-face workshop, that's an even bigger achievement. We spend a lot of time together. I know we all wish we could go to karaoke or the pub and have a round of celebratory drinks together. But since we can't do that, if you would like to stay in contact with us and maybe this little EOCSI family continues to grow, we've also included a link for you to, in the survey form, we've invited you to include your contact details if you wish to stay in contact outside of the actual phase 2 part as well. Sorry, I'm rambling. It's been a big week. It's been a long week, but just want to say this is not the end. We fully want to see you all, you lovely people, again somewhere in the future. So thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
We really do. And a clarification, if you would like to submit revised slides with your phase 2 form in response to some of the feedback received, you're very welcome to do so, but it's not required. Just the phase 2 form is enough by itself. We have seen your pitch today and we have come to know you and cherish you. So we very much look forward to and also to receiving your anonymous survey. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi, can I clarify one quick thing?
Yeah.
I heard, because I was reading the publication that was saying 2 different things, just to confirm what's what. They said that you guys will pick 3 people to move on, but we also should all apply for phase 2. So how does it work? Which is which? Are they different or are they the same thing?
Yes, we have revised that. So we will pick a number of ideas. It's not, I'll pass it over to Emma. Oh, you're just on mute now.
There we go. I think the thing is that at the start of the week we thought, oh, maybe we'd have 2 or 3 ideas and maybe a couple of participants that would want to come along this journey. But you're all just so good and you all have great ideas. We want you all to come along further on the journey with us. So I think on that form, there's an opportunity, that phase 2 form, there's a box where you can nominate what type of help you're looking from us next. And if we have the resources or the knowledge or the expertise to do that, we will be able to help you with that a little further. It's also, I don't know if Roshni said, but that form is due at the end of Wednesday, so midnight Australian time. So that would mean probably, I'm guessing, maybe 9 p.m. for much of Southeast Asia time, if that's correct, Rosh?
Yes, I believe so. So you do have a couple of days to put the form together. It doesn't need to be done today, but we do encourage you because, as Emma said, we are likely to accept more than 3, definitely. There have been so many good ideas that have really surpassed all of our expectations. So we will try to help as many of you as we can.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Were there any other questions?
Can we have a group photo?
I might look like a fish.
Yeah, sure.
I'll try.
Let's
My
just
camera's going to
try.
freeze, I'm sure, so somebody else should take the photo.
It's okay. I think Rachel and I will take the photos. So
should wave our hands. At least like we're actually
absolutely, and maybe on the count of 3, everyone could take their mute off and say EOCSI or something on the same. Okay, 1, 2, 3, EOCSI. And let's just do it again. One more. 1, 2, 3, EOCSI. Oh, you are all wonderful, and you've all come up beautifully. So no fish face there. That's great. So I think like I'm very hesitant to let everyone go, but I think we've come to the end.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
And we could say goodbye, but maybe it'd be better to say see you again.
See you again.
See you again.
See you again.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. What a wonderful week.
Okay.
Bye.
Congratulations, everybody.
Bye. Thank
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Wonderful job.
See you, Bam.
See you.
Keep in touch in Discord.